Brother demanded $25,000 for his dream business. I refused. He threatened to ruin my reputation, so I exposed his dark secret. Let me start by saying this isn't easy to write. I'm still reeling from everything that's happened, but I need to get this off my chest. My brother, let's call him Zephyr, has always been the golden child of the family. Growing up, he was the one who could do no wrong, the one who everyone believed would go far. I, on the other hand, was the quiet, responsible one. The one expected to keep everything together while he chased his dreams. But let me tell you something about Zephyr. His dreams are just another way of saying bad ideas that end in disaster. This all started earlier this year. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, a small but vibrant city in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's a town full of artists, small businesses, and, unfortunately, people like Zephyr, charismatic dreamers who think the world owes them a favor. For context, I'm in my mid-30s, working a stable job managing a printing company. I own a modest house and have spent years building up my savings and stability. It hasn't been easy, but I'm proud of what I've accomplished. Zephyr is 6 years younger than me, and our lives couldn't be more different. While I've been working hard to build a foundation, Zephyr has been hopping from one failed venture to another. He's dabbled in crypto, tried flipping houses, sold MLM vitamins, you name it, he's done it. Every time, he swears it's the big one, and every time, he ends up broke and looking for someone to bail him out. So when my phone rang one Saturday morning and Zephyr's name popped up, I already had a bad feeling. Hey, bro. Zephyr's voice was buzzing with excitement. I've got the best idea. You're gonna love this. What's up? I asked, already bracing myself. Okay, hear me out, he said, barely pausing to breathe. A brewery/yoga studio/dog rescue. I was so stunned I had to put my coffee down. A what? A brewery. But we'll also have yoga classes in the evenings, and a section where people can adopt rescue dogs. Now, I'm not a business expert, but even I could see the issues. Asheville is packed with breweries and yoga studios. Combining them with a dog rescue? It sounded chaotic, to say the least. But Zephyr? He was convinced it was the next big thing. Zeph, I said cautiously, that's unique. How would it even work? I've got it all planned out, he said, clearly ignoring the skepticism in my voice. I just need a little help to get started. Here it came. I need 25 grand, he said casually, like he was asking for gas money. Let me make something clear, I don't have $25,000 just lying around. Yes, I've saved up over the years, but that money is for emergencies and my future, not to bankroll my brother's latest pipe dream. I tried to explain this to him. Zeph, I can't just give you that kind of money, I said. That's my savings. I've got bills, my mortgage. Don't give me that, he snapped, his tone shifting. You own a house. I know you've got money. I couldn't believe the audacity. It's not like I've been handed anything in life. I've worked hard for every dollar I've saved. But Zephyr didn't see it that way. In his mind, I was being selfish for not immediately jumping to support him. This is your chance to be part of something big, he said, switching to his usual charm. Don't you want to help family? Zeph, I can't, I repeated, trying to stay calm. Well, you'll regret it, he said, his voice dripping with venom. You're selfish. You've always been selfish. Mom and Dad would be ashamed of you. That last line hit me like a punch to the gut. Our parents passed away 5 years ago, and I've worked hard to honor their memory. To hear Zephyr use them against me? It was like he'd crossed an unspoken line. The call ended with Zephyr slamming the phone down, and I thought that was the end of it. But I was so wrong. Over the next few weeks, Zephyr launched what I can only describe as a smear campaign. He texted me constantly, alternating between guilt trips and outright insults. When I stopped responding, he took to social media. He posted vague, passive-aggressive messages like, some people would rather hoard their wealth than help family achieve their dreams. Sad. It didn't stop there. He started talking to mutual friends and acquaintances, painting me as the villain. Suddenly, I was the stingy brother who refused to help poor Zephyr achieve his vision. Asheville is a small town, and word spread quickly. People I barely knew were giving me side eyes at the grocery store. Some even unfriended me on Facebook. Then, the real bomb dropped. One morning, my boss called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable, which immediately set me on edge. We've received an anonymous email, he said, sliding a printed copy across the desk. It accuses you of financial misconduct. I stared at the paper, dumbfounded. The email was full of vague claims that I'd been embezzling funds from the company. It was completely baseless, but my boss had no choice. Company policy required an investigation. Effective immediately, I was suspended without pay. I knew exactly who was behind this. Zephyr. The moment I got home, I called him. He picked up on the second ring, sounding smug. "Enjoying your day off," he said, laughing. "You've gone too far, Zeph," I said, barely able to keep my voice steady. "You're messing with my job now?" "Well, maybe you should have helped me when I asked," he said. This could have all been avoided. I was shaking with anger. Zephyr didn't just want money, he wanted to control me, to manipulate me into doing what he wanted. And when I didn't, he decided to burn everything down. That's when I made a decision. If Zephyr wanted a war, he was going to get one. But unlike him, I wasn't going to stoop to lies and manipulation. I had something far more powerful, the truth. You see, Zephyr has always been reckless, but there's one secret he's been desperate to keep hidden. A few years ago, he got involved in a shady real estate deal in Florida. It was one of his big ideas, buying and flipping houses with a partner. Except the whole thing was a scam. Zephyr and his partner took money from investors, promised them huge returns, and then disappeared when the deal fell apart. Several families lost their savings because of him. I'd helped him cover it up back then because, well, he was my brother. But now? Now I had no reason to protect him. I started gathering evidence, emails, messages, and even court records. I reached out to some of his victims, who were more than willing to share their stories. Once I had everything, I prepared to take the next step. But first, I had to ask myself, was I ready to expose my own brother to the world? Once I had all the evidence in hand, I knew what I needed to do. I wasn't just going to stop Zephyr, I was going to make sure he could never pull this kind of stunt again. I started by posting everything I had on a local community forum, one of those places where neighbors share tips, events, and the occasional drama. I made the post as factual and detailed as possible. I explained Zephyr's past scams in Florida, how families had lost their life savings, and how he'd quietly settled lawsuits to avoid going to court. I included screenshots of emails, public court records, and even testimonials from his victims. It didn't take long for the post to explode. Asheville might be small, but people here love a good scandal. The thread racked up hundreds of comments within hours, and it wasn't just locals chiming in. A few people from Florida who had been scammed by Zephyr years ago found the post and started sharing their stories. The internet doesn't forget, and neither do people who've been wronged. Zephyr called me the next day, and I could practically feel the panic through the phone. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he yelled. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Oh, I know exactly what I've done," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I've told the truth." "You've ruined my life," he screamed. "You think this makes you better than me?" "Zeph, you ruined your own life," I said. "I just stopped covering for you." He hung up, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But then I reminded myself of everything he'd done, how he tried to ruin my reputation, how he messed with my job, how he manipulated me for years. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about making sure Zephyr couldn't hurt anyone else. The fallout was immediate. Word spread fast, and Zephyr's name became synonymous with scammer in our town. People who had been charmed by him before now avoided him like the plague. He lost whatever small support he had for his brewery/yoga studio/dog rescue idea. Investors pulled out, and even some of his closest friends turned their backs on him. But the real kicker came when one of the families he scammed in Florida decided to reopen their lawsuit. They'd seen my post and reached out to a lawyer, who was more than happy to dig up the old case. Turns out, there were still unresolved legal issues, and Zephyr found himself facing a whole new set of problems. He tried to call me again, probably to beg for help, but I ignored him. I wasn't going to get dragged into his mess again. As for me, things slowly went back to normal. My boss cleared me of the false accusations and apologized for the suspension. Most of the people who had turned against me came around once they realized the truth. Some even admitted they'd fallen for Zephyr's charm and felt terrible for doubting me. I'd like to say this whole ordeal was cathartic, but honestly, it was just exhausting. Cutting ties with my brother wasn't easy, but it was necessary. He'd always been a toxic presence in my life, and I wasn't going to let him drag me down anymore. The last I heard, Zephyr moved back to Florida to start fresh, though I doubt that'll work out for him. People like him don't change. Maybe someday he'll hit rock bottom and realize the damage he's caused. Or maybe he'll keep spiraling until there's nothing left. Either way, I'm done being his safety net. He thought he could ruin my life to get what he wanted, but in the end, all he did was destroy his own. Revenge might not always be the answer, but in this case, it felt pretty damn good.